So, we've just witnessed one of the biggest nights in European football, and yes, last night we saw the Europa League final between Atalanta and Bayer Leverkusen. And if you're a neutral like me, you're a neutral who love and follow the game of football. I'm very sure you'll be so excited by what you saw on the night, and it's a game of football that will live long in your memory. It's something you cannot forget in a hurry, especially with what we witnessed last night. Yes, we can talk about the brilliance of Bayer Leverkusen all season, leading up to the final of the Europa League. We can talk about how Atalanta set up on the night and the brilliance and tactical masterclass of the coach, Gian Piero Gasperini. We can also talk about how Bayer Leverkusen could have also added another trophy to the Bundesliga title they've already won. But at the end of the day, if you had watched the game last night and you had followed what transpired at the Aviva Arena in Dublin, I'm sure for a very, very long time you continue to remember what played out in that stadium. And yes, one man has been on the lips of everybody. No surprises because he went into the history books, and that is none other than the Nigerian attacker Ademola Lookman. And of course, as you've seen from the title of this video, we'll really talk about the review of that game. I will look at the game, what exactly went wrong for Bayer Leverkusen, and also talk about that young man Ademola Lookman. But first, let me just quickly say this. This is my first video on YouTube, and just to be clear, I've not scripted this video. I've not written any kind of stats or what have you whatsoever somewhere. There are some videos that you just have to do right out of the part. There are some videos you just have to wake up and just do, and this is one of them. I've always wanted to post videos on YouTube talking about football, my love of the game, and I know I'll just be one out of thousands of people who are already doing this. But for me, yes, I imagine a scenario where I would sit down and say, hey guys, welcome to my YouTube channel, but this is not one of those scenarios, and I just hope that you can make do with what I'm trying to say here, and just follow along with what I have to say. But guys, my name is Imade, short form for Emmanuel Adefisayo. And don't worry, maybe one of these days we have a sit down video where I introduce myself properly, and then you can know the person behind this face. But let's just quickly get straight into the video and the talking points of last night. I think we should start off from Bayer Leverkusen. No doubt they've been brilliant all season. They've broken the record set by Benfica for an European side that has gone, a season unbeaten. Benfica went 48 games unbeaten, and then we saw Bayer Leverkusen come in, break that record, and then they've gone 51 games unbeaten, leading up to the final last night. And for me, as much as I would say that they've had a very fantastic season, you look at the setup from Xabi Alonso last night and you begin to wonder, maybe it was coming from the angle of, okay, this is a final, we have to be careful of how you set up the team. You have to look at how the game plays on, and then you can make those substitutions. But for me, in all honesty, as much as I think the lineup was balanced, the fact that there was no clear, it's just my opinion, the fact that there was no clear out and out striker, the way Atalanta did, using Scamacca up top and then playing Ademola Lookman and the AC Milan guy who is on loan, talking about Charles De Catalari behind him. But for Alonso, we saw him go for Adli, as the false nine, then Jeremy Frimpong and Florian Wirtz playing just behind Adli. And we saw that didn't really work out for him in that first half. Yes, Atalanta got two quick goals, one in the 12th minute and I think the other by the 26th minute. And you could see the moment the game started, you could sense how Atalanta wanted to attack the game. They came out at first. They knew that all they needed to do was get the first goal, and they did just that. And then they were able to go back a bit, try to allow Bayer Leverkusen play with the ball. And once the ball fell to Atalanta, we saw them take up that mantle. And before you could say Jack Robinson, Ademola Lookman had added the second goal. And so I think it would have been a tall order for Alonso to come back. No doubt, all season he has shown that they can come back. In fact, this season, I think judging by the start I saw, I'm trying to be very clear here. Like I told you, I've not looked at anything. I'm just making this video right out of the bat. But I think they've been able to come back 4 times from 2 goal leads, from 2 goal deficit. I beg your pardon. They've been able to come back 4 times this season. From being behind after a 2 goal deficit, and they've been able to come back in that. And I think of the 4 times, 3 have been in the Europa League, and so many were expecting that, maybe this might just be one of the days. But sometimes football is not like that. You don't predict football that way, especially considering the fact that this is a final match. It's a final that both teams have a lot at stake. Both teams want to win. And in my opinion, I've always said that if there is any team that would, be that bogey team to Bayer Leverkusen in their unbeaten run, it has to be Atalanta. It has to be Atalanta. Atalanta, we saw them dismantle Liverpool at Anfield. We saw them also dismantle Marseille en route to the final of the Europa League. And so I'm not surprised that, going 2-0 up, it would have been very, very difficult for Xabi Alonso to come back in that game. Yes, in the second half, he tried to make some substitutions, bring in Victor Boniface, also brought in Palacios. But, by the time he could make that substitution, for me, I just felt it was all over. As much as in a game of football, it's not over until it is over. You cannot take away the fact that Atalanta are a well-drilled Italian team. They are a side who knows what they want. We've seen them all season in Europe, and credit must go to this team. Talking about Atalanta now, they've got into 2 finals this year. The Coppa Italia final, where they lost to Juventus, courtesy of that early goal from Dusan Vlahovic. And they also have got into the Europa League final, which they've now lifted. But I guess a lot of people are not giving them the credit that they deserve. This is a team that has been on the rise, in recent seasons. We saw that fairy tale run in the Champions League, where they got to the quarterfinals, if my memory serves me right. And Gasperini is one coach who I think this is the right time. He now needs to start getting his flowers. This guy has really been able to turn this club around. He's made them a force to be reckoned with in Italian football, and you have to give him the credit. This man, despite losing some of his key players in the past, he's still been able to try to find a solution to the team. He's brought in players that a lot of people would have thought, this guy was a flop in his former club, or this guy really was not settled in that club. We saw Scamacca, who was a shining light in Sassuolo, made that trip to West Ham United, and it didn't work out for him. And coming back to Italy to an Atalanta side, some would have thought, let's see how he would perform. But you have to give him the credit because he's experienced Italian football in the past, and I guess that must have also helped in him settling so well into that side. We could also mention Ademola Lookman, who has been a journeyman all his career. Played for the likes of Charlton Athletic, Fulham, Leicester City, Everton, went on loan to RB Leipzig, and he's now enjoying his football at Atalanta. And I guess that is why we are now beginning to see the kind of football we are seeing from Lookman. No doubt Lookman has always shown flashes in the past. Lookman has always shown that he's a player who can really come good, but I think he just needed somewhere where he knows that, okay, I have the opportunity to play week in, week out. And I guess that is what Gian Piero Gasperini has given him. And this guy, for the last 2 seasons, he has had 20 plus goals contributions for Atalanta back to back now. and you have to give him credit for what he's done. Yes, 3 finals this year for Lookman. The AFCON final, where he was also a mainstay for Nigeria. Getting to the final of the AFCON before losing to Cote d'Ivoire. I'm Nigerian, and so I have to give him all the credit. This guy has been really fantastic for the Super Eagles of Nigeria in recent months, and he also got to 2 other finals apart from the AFCON, talking about the Coppa Italia and the Europa League. But let's now quickly focus our attention to that young man, Ademola Lookman. For me, this guy I think, is beginning to get the attention of a lot of football fans. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, he's been a journeyman for some time now in his career. He's made several moves, across clubs. He's even gone abroad, from England to RB Leipzig, played on loan there. But I think by the time he made the switch to Bergamo, I'm sure they must have told him that, look, now you have the opportunity to play football. We know the talent you have. We know what you can do. Just put your head here and express yourself. And I guess that is what this young man has been doing, because truth be told, ever since he's come into Atalanta, he's been able to hit the ground running, and Atalanta has put faith in him, and they are now reaping the benefits. And of course, the biggest benefit has to be last night when he went into the history books, and what a fantastic performance for him. I'm sure, no doubt, that's his biggest night of his career as a footballer. That is the best performance I've seen from an Ademola Lookman, and for that performance to come on the biggest night of Atalanta's European sojourn, on the biggest night of Atalanta as a football club, for me, that is just that is fantastic. I'm trying to look for the words to use now, and we just have to give him all the plaudits. The name, everybody has been mentioning his name since last night. We saw the commentary from the top commentator. We saw how he praised the Lookman, how he talked about the fact that this guy is gone into the history books, the first man to score an hat-trick in the final of an Uefa Cup or the Europa League Final, in a single one-legged final. The last time we saw something like this was, I think, in the 70s, and that was not even in a single leg final. And so for Lookman to go down in history as the first man to score an hat-trick in a single leg UEFA Cup final or Europa League final, that just goes to show you the kind of talent and the kind of football that this young man plays. And he said it after the game. He believes and trusts in his abilities as a footballer. And that was why we saw the performance last night. I'm so happy for him. As a Nigerian, I'm really lost for words to know that a Nigerian is in that record books. Yes, maybe I'm being biased here, but no doubt, as a neutral, as someone who loves the game, I don't have any attachment to Atalanta or Bayer Leverkusen, just to be clear. But as someone who loves and follows the game of football, I'm so impressed by what we saw from Ademola Lookman. And I know that for now, a lot of people will begin to watch this guy. I think the bigger clubs will begin to monitor him now. And I'm very sure that don't be surprised if one of these days you hear that a club is putting a bid forward for Ademola Lookman. But I think if he's to even decide to make that move from Atalanta, he should go to a club where he's guaranteed he would play week in, week out. Because for me, I think players like that shouldn't sit on the bench. The more they play, the more their confidence grows, the more they get into the game. And we've seen the kind of season he's had, from the AFCON, where he had a fantastic performance for Nigeria. Yes, in the final, maybe it didn't really come to the party, before he was substituted, but you cannot deny the fact that Lookman has had a fantastic year. And there are already conversations of African Footballer of the Year. And for me, I think those conversations are well thought of, in my opinion, because at some point I was thinking Victor Boniface had a very big shout for that African Footballer of the Year. But some would also argue that as much as Victor Boniface, had a very good season with Bayer Leverkusen, going on to win the Rookie of the Season, and also winning the Rookie of the Month 4 times, and winning Player of the Month once as well. And in his first 16 games, we saw him already scored about 10 goals and had around 5 or 6 assists. Someone would argue that Victor Boniface didn't attend the AFCON, and that might, play against him. And the fact that he also got injured mid-season, even though he came back from injury, and Xabi Alonso has been able to ease him into the side. But I think Ademola Lookman definitely looks like that front runner now for the African Footballer of the Year. No doubt about that, because he's 3 finals in 1 year: the AFCON final, the Coppa Italia final, and the Europa League final. And for you to be third time lucky, winning the Europa League final, and not just winning that final, scoring an hat-trick on the biggest night of your career, that just changed the trajectory of everything. We might just want to say, yes, Boniface is still in the running, especially if Bayer Leverkusen go on to win the DFB Pokal. But for me, I think Ademola Lookman right now looks like the front runner for the African Footballer of the Year. But then we'll leave that to CAF to decide. CAF would make a decision on that, and then we'll know where we're going. But then let's quickly look at the coach again. Talking about the Atalanta coach, Gian Piero Gasperini. A lot has been talked about this man. Ever since he came to Atalanta, how he's been able to rejig the team over the years. He sold some players, he brought in some players as well. When he lost some of his top players, the likes of Duvan Zapata, we can talk about even Rasmus Højlund, who had a very good season, and then Man U came with the box and took him away from that club. But over the years, we've seen his transfer strategy. It's not as if he goes into, of course, Atalanta do not have the budget the way the big Italian clubs, the Milan clubs of this world, the Juventus of this world, the way they have the budget. You cannot deny the fact that Atalanta is a well-run club. That side from Bergamo, they know what they want. They understand how football should be run, and I think that is what they are doing in that side. And you have to give credit to the management. I beg your pardon, of Atalanta, and also the coach himself, because for me, Gian Piero Gasperini, that man is a fantastic manager, and we've seen players in the past talk about him, his tactical awareness, how he wants his team to play, and that was exactly what we saw last night. The way he set up his team, a 3-4-3 formation, had the likes of Kolasinac, Jim City, these guys supporting the midfield. Had the likes of Koop Miners, I beg your pardon. Then you have the Zabakostas of this world playing as wing backs, and Charles De Ketelaere and Ademola Lookman supporting Gianluca Scamacca. And for me, that was a fantastic lineup. We saw when he wanted to attack, he attacked. When he wanted the side to, hold on to the ball, support each other, that was what they did. We saw the likes of Ademola Lookman even falling back to support the defense. And by the time they get the ball, they try to go on that counter attack. And credit must go to Gian Piero Gasperini, winning his first major trophy as a top flight manager. I'm sure it's a night he would not forget in a hurry, and it's a night that he would always remember for a very, very long time. But all the same, I just want to say credit must go to Atalanta. Congratulations to them. They got to the biggest night of the club, the biggest night of Atalanta as a club. And the last time they won a trophy, if my memory serves me right, was back in 1962, and that was the only trophy. That is the only trophy, I beg your pardon, in the history of the club. And for you to now go from then to now beating the rest of Europe last night in the Europa League, it just goes to show you that this is a side to watch out for, particularly as we prepare for the Champions League next season. Keep an eye on Atalanta, but also keep an eye on that man, Gian Piero Gasperini. He's very tactically aware. He's someone who knows how he wants his team to play, and I'm happy that he's now getting the recognition he deserves. Because over the years, I've always thought of him as a top manager, but now I'm sure a lot of people will now really begin to give him the credit he deserves. But once again, congratulations to Atalanta. What a night for them. What a night for Ademola Lookman, and what a night for the city of Bergamo. But then for Bayer Leverkusen, they should hold their head high. 51 games unbeaten all season, not losing, and now losing on the biggest night of the club as well. Talking about Bayer Leverkusen, we all know that this is one of the biggest nights of the club, because the last time they got to a night like this, they lost that final, and now they've been able to get to the final of the Europa League. Some would argue that maybe Atalanta has European experience than Bayer Leverkusen, which is why they won that final. But for a side to have gone off season unbeaten, you definitely put an eye on them and say they have every chance to go and win this final. But it just goes to show you that this is a game of football. Sometimes when you are on a high, you are always brought back down to earth, and there's this reality check, that comes in, that sets in, that at the end of the day, we are all humans. These are humans playing the game of football, and that was exactly what happened yesterday. Atalanta, served them that reality check, and Bayer Leverkusen, I'm sure it's something they want to look back at and see how they can work on, especially as they prepare for the Champions League next season. But they've still got one trophy to play for. The DFB Pokal is still there. That's another opportunity to add another trophy to their cabinet. And if you can win that one and you finish the season with 2 trophies out of 3, then that's a very, very fantastic season for the side. But they would also go down in history. Of course, the first European side to go 51 games unbeaten, and that for me is just out of this world. It's out of this world, and credit must go to Xabi Alonso for what he's done to this side. They've had a good season, and so both teams, they really deserve the win, but only one team would win the trophy, and that was exactly what Atalanta did on the night. Well, that's just my piece of what I have to say about what we saw last night. And like I said, this is my first video on YouTube. It's not scripted. I just had to see everything off my head. Maybe one of these days we'll have a sit down kind of video style where I introduce myself the more. But that's it for this video, and until I catch you in the next one, peace.